For folks, if you're just joining us, or I suppose even if you've been following along, we've been working on an application where some of the technologies we've chosen to use are we're using for the front end the Blazor WebAssembly standalone app, which is different from the Blazor web app template. This particular template it's more like the original Blazor WebAssembly, where the code that you're writing for the client is running entirely in the client in WebAssembly, whereas the new Blazor web app model has the islands of interactivity concept where your components might be running. I mean, it's your choice if you want them to run as WebAssembly based Blazor components, or whether they want them to be server with SignalR or what have you, or even static, right? Statically rendered. So, but we're using that, and we're also we wanted to use .NET Aspire for orchestration, and we are using CosmosDB NoSQL for the data. Now, the last time we were on, if you were following along, folks might remember that the last time we were on, what we were really struggling with was the service discovery in the Blazor WebAssembly app, meaning that if you use .NET Aspire, you set your projects up in the orchestration, and they get really neat names, like it might be web app or API service or something like that. And then instead of having to go into configuration and modify it for environment, from dev to production, maybe you have a pre-prod, maybe you have an acceptance environment, you just put that name in, and service discovery replaces it at runtime, or it might actually not even be at runtime. It could be. It's interesting how it seems to be working. But what we have found is that does not seem to work in Blazor WASM. And we have, in fact, I think maybe I'll go ahead and share my screen here, because we have this issue in .NET Aspire. Aspire doesn't replace HTTP client URI with actual address in Blazor WebAssembly standalone app, because it doesn't have an app settings JSON. And I said, well, this sounds familiar. In this particular issue, this person shows a small sample app that they've created, and then what they did is they dug in a little bit further and showed that when the API is called, and because you're Blazor WebAssembly standalone, you will see this in the browser's dev tools. You'll see that Blazor WebAssembly is trying to call out, your WebAssembly app's trying to call out to an API, and the request URL is not replaced with the actual location, so it blows up. And I actually did recreate this. So Aspire isn't necessarily working with Blazor WASM. It turns out that there is a series of issues. I'm trying to see. Here's the second one. There's a series of issues here. I thought there was more than this that I was looking for. So it turns out there is a community project that's out there that we're not gonna try and use it today, but it's interesting that Aspire for WASM is a NuGet package that we might take a look at. It could be interesting. We'll see. But that's meant to address this. There are other ways to address this as well that other projects apparently have used. As you can see, Damian Edwards opened his own issue to create a sample of extending service discovery to browser apps like a Blazor WebAssembly or a JavaScript SPA. So this is known. This is well known. And I think that's okay. You know, we kind of got to the point where we said, I don't think we need to dwell on this right now, because what we can do is we can have the WebAssembly app just connect to the server the old-fashioned way, even perhaps using environment-based switching of URLs, and we'll go from there. But we could still, at the very least, keep it as part of the Aspire orchestration, if for no other reason, that it all just fires up together in a debugging session. Even though you're not really getting all the benefits of Aspire on the client WASM standalone app. Now, I'm not hearing you, even though you're not muted in StreamYard. No, I'm still not hearing you, which makes me wonder. Let me double check that you're.
There you go. Try that. Did that work?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess at some point I hit another button. So we're good.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're here. So I think what we're going to try to do, a little bit of a shorter show today, right? Because we got a little bit of a later start, is we're going to say, okay, instead of working so hard to get the service discovery working in Blazor WASM, which looks like, first of all, it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are open issues that look like they may be looked like this could be something that's being looked at, which looks great. We're going to keep digging into that. Is we want to get to our end goal of just seeing meetings come up on the meetings page.
Right.
So here we are.
Yeah, that's yours.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure.
Oh, sorry. Add. There we go.
Okay.
Okay. Now the one thing I did try, because I did play around with this a little bit, and I don't think this completely worked, but there might be reasons. So there is this here, which since it said, hey, there's no, because I asked Copilot what's wrong, and so we don't have an app settings. So maybe we just add an app settings file as a way of putting configuration in there. Okay, that's possible. Because we do have, we can certainly add a file to it. Is there anything technically challenging in doing that inside of a WASM? Nope, I don't hear you.
Oh, I think it's one way to deal with it. I've seen another way that I don't have at my fingertips, where you define the HTTP client's app settings in an app settings. Or frankly, we just, in the HTTP client, we just set this as the base address, like one.
Right. Which is the other way to go.
Yeah.
Because I do have, what I started to do was set this meeting service up, which was going to bring in the HTTP client that we created out here at the program side. We in the right one? Yep. So this one here. So using the base address, which was actually taking it from that app settings. Now, let's just do this to make it easy, because then I don't have to worry about configuration and stuff.
This is more of a, we want to see it work once, and then we can back up to how it should really work.
Right. So that's the localhost base address. Boom. So let's see if that doesn't blow up now when we run it. And I am sharing. You'll see here that Chris and I are doing a live share.
Yeah.
So if he wants to add some code or fix some things behind the scenes as I'm talking about it, that could all happen. So let's go ahead and run this. There we go. I apologize. So I'm in light mode. And
are you apologizing for being in light mode?
I am. Because
is that the world we live in now? Is you have to apologize for being in light mode?
I think you have to apologize to developers that you're in light mode, as opposed to, because I did a session with some of my fellow architects, and they're not all developers. I'm really, there's like, they're past developers, they don't do. So it was very dark in the conference room we were in, up on the Surface Hub, and like they couldn't see it. Like, all right, wait a second, and I went in and had to figure out, all right, how do I turn this stuff all into light mode? And I haven't gone back to it yet. So there you go.
No, I agree. It's funny when in the early days of dark mode, there were still recommendations that when you're doing a presentation, switch back to light mode. But then I found that people would hate it, even in presentations. Yeah. So
I would ask, it's like, is this too dark for you? No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, apologize for those at home. But now we have our application here. We have meetings, which is the one that we want to click into. That's the one where all the magic is. So so at least this time, because previously I wasn't hitting my breakpoints. And part of that was because I was relying on the Aspire service discovery, and I don't think I properly had the settings in there, so it was popping in right. So this is at least promising. So we can go here. We could say, hey, let's go ahead and F5 it. So if we get there, oh, looks like Chris is already here.
Well, it's showing you that I'm on the same. And I have, we haven't used live share in a while, and there's the setting where, and I think this is the default, where it switches. I'm keeping up with you when you change something. Yes. Boom. But there's a way for me to unpin that and say, no, I want to be on my own. But I got to tell you, I remember when we explored live share all the time ago, and it was just so amazing. And so it looks like we're still entering an exception here. Yeah, and it still failed to fetch. So what I don't know is I don't know what. So here's what I would say. I would say we want to, if you have that browser window.
Oh, shoot. I just hit I did. Okay. I got rid of it. I can restart it.
Because the thing about it to me, what was 10 times faster was to just go to the browser and see what was the API you tried to call. Because maybe we're going to look at it and you're going to go like, oh, that's not going to work.
Right.
Maybe there's a missing slash or something silly, right? I don't know.
No, fair point. So let's do that. Back to here.
I just found it so much easier. So the failed to fetch just tells us that the JavaScript fetch API blew up. We're not getting much more than that.
So what you're saying is look here and see what failed.
Yeah. Now, has it failed yet? Oh yeah, here we go.
720.
Now, is that it?
From origin has been blocked by cores. Which
so we're in cores. We're at cores. Yeah.
Because this.
Yep.
So the reason there is this endpoint where our website lives is at the ports 57.420, and this one that we're trying to call. Where did I lose? Oh, there it is down here. Is we're trying to call 7024. So that's two separate websites as far as the browser is concerned. That's a no. Whoops, as I almost spill my coffee.
Right.
So that's why. Okay.
Right. So here's what's different about what we're doing and versus if you just went in and said new Blazor web app, which is the newish, I'm going to say newish because it came out in .NET 8. We're already in .NET 9. And by the end of the year, .NET 10. The newish Blazor template style with render modes and all that is still inherently a server-based app. So your WebAssembly client is the same origin. Like your Blazor WebAssembly components in a Blazor web app are still same origin with your web server. What we're doing here is they are two separate projects. We have a web API that could live on any server anywhere. Who knows? Wherever we put it. And then we have a Blazor WebAssembly standalone app that is being deployed to you by a different web server, but it could be a static file web server. There's no web server logic to it, like any like whether it's PHP or ASP.NET or classic ASP or anything like that. So these are two distinct web applications running, and that now we have the same origin problem. So we can solve the same origin problem, right?
Yep.
And it might be interesting.
We have to allow the other host, right?
Yes, right. So I think it might be interesting because you've been doing this a lot lately. You've been kind of inspiring me to ask GitHub Copilot chat first and then say like,
sure.
Oh, okay. Well, that isn't what we want. But what it should be doing is it should ask us to do as part of builder.services add cores and add a cores policy is what it should do.
Yeah. So What I'm going to do is I could take this, copy it, bring it into GitHub Copilot chat, and say,
Oh, interesting. Okay. Just hand it the problem.
mm-hmm.
So
So here's the plan.
oh man, I think it's interesting that it looks at your project, recognizes it's ASP.NET Core, looks at the error at what you've written, recognizes it's an error message. It's already figured out that it's got to add a CORS policy. It's already figured out it's got to allow requests from the Blazor WebAssembly client and apply the CORS middleware. Huh. Wow.
And importantly, let's go see what the edits are, right? So
Right.
looking at our program CS. So it wants to add this section in here. So add cores, Blazor client is going to just give it a name, Blazor client policy. And that policy is with origins of 57420, allow any, allow credentials. So that's kind of a wide open thing.
It is.
It's so here's what we can do though. We can go back and say, that is pretty wide open access. Can you scope it down to just local host?
Well, I mean, we're saying that we're allowing any method. That means that we're allowing get, post, whatever. We're allowing all headers.
Right.
And the allow credentials, I think, I wonder if you can set it to say like only authorized requests. I feel like we
don't have any of that in place yet, though.
Down. Right. We don't have any of that in place. We might be stuck with
just that.
Well, let's see what we say here. Add course policy. Only allow the 7024 origin. Okay. That might be all that it's going to do here. Let's see. So it's come up with its idea.
Oh, sorry. Let's scroll down. Oop. Let's see what it says.
I think what it might do is it might say like the origin has to be, yeah.
Which is interesting because you originally had the origins as the website where our application lived, and now it's trying to say with origins means what you're allowing access to talk to.
Right.
So the question then is, which is the right answer? Because he kind of told us both things.
So cores, every time anyone does cores, I think what happens is your brain has to try and remember how it works. And if I recall correctly, the way cores actually works is the server sends down a header telling the browser, as long as your API calls are calling to these allowed origins, then you're okay. So your security minded brain might immediately say, well, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense, because why don't I just ignore that? Why don't I just ignore that and then I can call anywhere I want? And the answer is that's true, except that part of the assumption of cores is that users are using trusted browsers. So this has been implemented in Firefox, Edge, Opera, Brave, Chrome, everything. So as long as you aren't using a hacked browser, because the fact of the matter is there's nothing in the world that can prevent me on my machine from calling to any server that I want.
Right.
So if somebody has already hacked my machine, I've already lost the battle to begin with.
Yeah.
So if I remember correctly, that's how cores works. So I believe the correct thing is that our policy is to say we are allowed to call this origin server, which is 7024, right?
Yeah.
And so let's give this a shot. It might have misunderstood us.
And then use local core, use cores. Okay. Now that's just basically adding it to the app. Okay. Let's recycle.
Now, I'm sure somebody either watching this now or in the future might be like, no, you have it backwards. But
Could be.
I was pretty sure
right
that's
to begin with.
I was pretty sure that's how the security model works, is because it's basically telling the browser. I know this sounds a little touch and go, but Cores is really telling the browser by default will not call back. It will not make a JavaScript call to any place other than its original origin, which is meant to keep you safe. But you can basically tell it like it's okay to go this other place too, but that's a permission that the server gives it. The server tells it it's okay. So
I don't know
now,
if that's...
maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm wrong because I was just looking at that error message.
Okay.
And the error message there said it wasn't allowed from an origin. So I might have it backwards as to what you send. This always happens to me. Is I might have it backwards as to what you set.
Okay. I mean, that looks like the same error.
Yeah, but what is it? Hold on, I got to get back to our screen here.
From origin.
Right. So it's complaining that the origin is 58098.
Yeah.
No access control allowed. Origin header is present. Oh, really? Oh, isn't so I don't know that just because you've added the course policy, I don't think that's all of it.
Okay. Access control allow origin. So let's do this.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Nope, that's fine.
Okay, we've done the add cores, but we haven't done the use cores.
Well, wait a minute. Didn't we do that here?
Hold on. Yeah, go back to the code here. I didn't see use cores. Maybe I missed it.
Hang on, which one's this? Is Orbital Web.
Did it not get saved?
That's it. I thought we accepted them. Yeah, because it said, hey, that's fine. Oh, it did it on the Orbital API. That's not where we need it, right?
Yeah. No, the Orbital API is the right spot.
Okay. All right, then I'm on the wrong program file.
At least according to my understanding of cores. Watch, I'm going to end up being wrong. But
because it's got to come down from the server.
It's got to come down from the server, yeah. And so we have... I'm just looking for the...
Oh, hang on. It's up here.
Okay, so there's add cores. What about use cores? Where is that?
Down here. At the... Here.
Oh, okay. It's interesting that it's saying no header came down. Oh, I'm sorry. It's correct that it can't be in the API. You're right. It has to come from the web app. You're right about that. So it put it in the API.
Has to be on the...
Yeah, because I'm sorry, it's Friday morning, I guess. Is okay. The web server is delivering the SPA app. So we want it to include the course header as it's delivering the app.
Okay. So let's do this. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of this. And hopefully I can come back over here. So this is the web, Orbital Web.
Right.
It's okay. Hang in. To do this. Oh no, it didn't do it. Okay, hang on. Go back over here. Come on. Control Z, Control Z. Copy. Back over here. Paste. Copy and paste. We don't have an app. Does that make sense? Because the app is different here, right? We also don't get an extension for add cores. All right, we're also trying to do this with a policy. We do have a couple of other ways that we could do this with something like endpoint routing or enabling the cores attribute. Well, I guess that's when we make the request, right?
Well, we still have to write. Don't we still have to write the policy though?
According to, and I'll share the link I'm looking at. Let me see. Let's drop it in Discord, and if it makes sense, we'll drop it in the chat. But essentially, well, I probably should do it over here so you can see what I'm looking at, which makes better sense. So it's just ASP.NET Core. In enabling cores, they're talking about essentially having three different ways of doing it, either through the policy, which is what we're trying, endpoint routing, or enable the cores attribute. And doing that with a named policy provides the best level of control, apparently. See, the problem on the WebAssembly is we don't get to the point where we actually build the app. I mean, we build, but we don't build an app.
Yeah.
We get a WebAssembly host.
That's true. Okay. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong because I'm looking at a blog post here where they are applying it to the API. Basically, it's I'm looking at a blog post where they are running a minimal API and a Blazor WebAssembly application.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, sounds familiar. And interestingly enough, it is on the API, which is what GitHub Copilot chat was trying to tell us to do.
Yeah. So then, all right. So then, so here's the thing. Then, if it's setting it on the API, then it had it right, because what it's saying is, yes, the API lives here, but I'm okay with it comes from origin 58.20.208, whatever it is, right? Because I can take calls from there.
Yeah, I'm just don't know how does that come down to the browser, but
well,
okay. So what it says here is it says replace the sample URL with your actual client-side URL. So that's something I was getting wrong, right? So maybe we go back to the original Copilot, what Copilot said to do the first time.
Yep. Let me reset this. So that's back to normal. This guy's here. Sorry, I didn't know the other one's in here. Yeah, there's the localhost. So we got the localhost policy back and this one here. And instead of doing this,
right.
And this is tricky because that was switching out.
It changes. I think there's a way to. The thing about it is I think there's a way to pin it down
in the app settings on the
because part of the problem is that the client port seems to be changing every time, right? Okay, so
but we should. So all right, can we go the other way? Because
I'm wondering if you could say localhost with a. Can you say for cores? Can you say localhost with a
star,
an asterisk? Yeah, does that work?
Yeah. I want me to find out. And I guess the other thing is, would we get service discovery of the web app in the API?
I don't know.
Okay. Because I mean that can be injected. Let's see, do this.
Yeah, 59035.
Yeah, let me do one last thing. Rewrite.
And it's just saying no, that header is not present. And so I don't know how this header comes down. That's the crazy thing. So even this blog post, in some respects, like I feel like it's weird because how does the header come down in the first place?
Not the fetch. Okay. Try this back to the console. Let's see. Because it failed as soon as it tried to call that get async method.
Right. Okay, so when you launched it again, it blew up because the port didn't match, we don't think?
Possibly because we put it in there with the star because we didn't really have any other way of doing it. We see it to be configuration for the overall web program to correctly use the API endpoint. It's kind of complaining about what we got in the orbital web services. So let's see what it's trying to do there. I mean, does it make a difference whether it comes from dependency? It should make a difference whether it comes from dependency injection or it comes from the. We basically instantiate our own here. It's the same. It's a similar object.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we just don't have core set up correctly.
I agree. So we're gonna get rid of that. Yeah, that's kind of not helpful. Okay.
We've added the course policy. We've said use cores.
Mm-hmm. In the API.
Yeah. I don't know if we have to do the endpoint routing or not.
That's what I'm thinking.
Or does it just work? The problem is though, is that I don't know that it's valid to do. Here's what you could do, I think, is back in allow any method, allow any header.
Okay.
I guess we have to stop the app, right?
Yeah.
Is I think we can also do I get IntelliSense? No, it doesn't look like I'm getting IntelliSense.
Hang on one sec. Let me make sure it's not. Let me close this.
Like I'm not getting any IntelliSense typing in the app. So I went to the program files. I went to the Orbital APIs program CS.
Okay.
And it is, yeah, I'm in Orbital API.programcs, which I'm not getting any IntelliSense in here. The API.
Oh, sorry. Back here. And that might be, is that the right one? No, it's not. Hang on. This one. How did you get started?
So I don't know if allowing origins actually a method because I'm getting no IntelliSense. But you see how I added allow any origin?
Oh, down here.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a real method. I tried this, but
let's try it.
But I think you have to get rid of the with origins though. Because we're basically saying any origin is fine.
We're saying double, yeah.
But like I said, I was trying to just see. I just wanted to let IntelliSense help me, and there's no IntelliSense support right now. I don't know why. I don't know if use routing is in here. I really don't. So I don't know if the use routing. So we got a comment. Did you put use routing in? And I don't know because I can't see the whole file. We were hoping to use live share to work together, but it's not. It doesn't seem to be. So there is a use routing. I don't know.
Yeah,
what we're trying to do specifically in the target web API. Yeah, I don't think there's a use routing in here at all. What we're trying to do specifically is we're trying to use a Blazor WebAssembly standalone app with an API, but they're in different projects. And so, of course, CORS jumps in and it says to place the use CORS call. The docs, it is true, it does say this. The docs state that the call to use CORS must be placed after use routing. But I don't think our program CS even has that. So I feel like this article, I don't know if it was expected. Maybe it was a different template. I don't know.
Yeah. So our API doesn't, because it's minimal API, all the routing happens inside the gets or the app, whatever's, right? There's no other.
That's true. And this article doesn't really contemplate minimal API. Well, I mean, it does actually. It does. So it does show a minimal API example. Well, kind of. Yeah, it does. I mean, so basically, I don't know, because the big thing that we're not seeing right now is we're not seeing. So I just added it on line 38.
Okay. So
we're not seeing the header come down.
Yeah.
And I'm still not right.
So let's and still not what?
We're not seeing any request work, and then we can fine tune it to what we should do.
Okay, we can probably get this because we're hitting here now, so that's fine. Let's go to the next one. Yeah.
Yeah, so the meetings are in there.
We got meetings.
Right. And then I think you...
Cool. What we don't have, though, is we don't have the
oh, what happened to that code here? Oh, I thought oh, okay.
No, so we have the code. The code is in a component. We have to add the component. Right?
Oh, okay.
But we've got to do it in a way such that so this is good. So we got at least the API working.
Okay.
Last 10 minutes. What do you expect? Let's see. So go back over to our meetings.razor. And then in here, we want to do
pretty much that was almost that was almost it.
Yeah, except the closing div.
Yeah, it's missing a closing div, but that's pretty much it. So yeah, what we're trying to do is we're trying to we had this original, if people haven't been following the show, we have a couple people here who have joined us, and thank you both, and thank you Mitch Denny for also coming in with that rescue there, because it looks like we're at least getting to call our own backend API. But we're trying to build an app that it could be used by a user group to display events, have people sign up for them for things like that. And we made a choice early on to try Blazor WebAssembly Standalone, which is not the same as the Blazor Web App template, where the Blazor Web App template uses render modes to define Blazor components, either being they could be that Blazor component could be WebAssembly, it could be Blazor server, it could be auto, where where it's either. We decided to try using Blazor WebAssembly Standalone on purpose, because we thought we wanted to see deploying this using a static web app. Some of this is an opportunity to kind of learn how to do these things and to do them in a way that might be useful at work in production. You know, instead of just kind of like, well, we know we can do this, let's actually try it. The backend is an API, but now they're two different servers. And so we've been struggling a little bit with cores. First, we were struggling with .NET Aspire orchestration. We were we were just assuming that the HTTP client we create in Blazor WebAssembly should just pick up the service discovery, and it doesn't. And we found out that's an open issue with Blazor WebAssembly or with any SPA JavaScript type application. So adding that code in there, we now see that our meetings page makes the call and gets back what's sitting in our, currently they all kind of look the same. Yeah, they all kind of look the same.
I just changed the ID number and that was all.
Right. So they all kind of look the same, but if you haven't been here before, you could open up Data Explorer and at least show that we are connecting to our backend data, which currently is running in the Azure CosmosDB emulator. So frankly, the big assist for today comes from Mitch Denny, who I'm the type of person that would go comment the use routing and watch it fail just so that I know, not because I doubt Mitch at all, and not. It's that I'm always the type of trying to figure out, okay, what was the thing that fixed it? And that certainly we had to get the use cores policy right. And now it would be interesting to backtrack on use cores and say, okay, well, we don't want to allow any origin. So there's some work to do there to backtrack and say, okay, well, we don't want to allow any origin. We certainly want it to be something we can set in configuration, so that way, as you move through different environments from our own local machines to production, which in our case will be Azure, but it could be anything, right? It could be anything you choose. We want that to work. So, okay, this is good that our meetings component is picking up. It's displaying each meeting, and then what this code's doing here in the meetings page is this code is saying, it's basically saying, well, look, if meetings is null, then don't do anything. Right. But if it isn't, then display the meetings. Now, what's interesting is, can you refresh this?
Yeah.
I think we're getting stuck on the call because we're not using stream rendering.
Yes.
And so,
very good point. So here, this is our meetings razor. I think it goes here. Help me out. I just blanked. I know it's
well, that's what I'm trying to remember too, because it's been a while since, remember, we used to do this all the time. And so there is stream rendering, which is, there's a component that we inject. I think we say crazy that I can't find it now. They must not call it stream rendering in the docs specifically, because I can't just search by that.
Right.
When you put a
that's not it.
Yeah, when you put, you don't get any help there when you when you put it. Okay, let me find it. You know what? Here's the problem. Oh, actually, we're in Blazor WebAssembly. We're in Blazor WebAssembly, so we're not going to get any of that support.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part of the issue. So instead, what we would have to do, I think, is, because see, the no meetings available never came up, and that's because in on initialized async we're making this call. So I feel like instead it might be that in Blazor WebAssembly we'd have to let this page render and then kick off the call, but you do it asynchronously. Like what's happening here is on initialized async is being waited on. I'm pretty sure it's being waited on. We don't have the feature that we have in Blazor Web app with stream rendering, where it says, okay, I can see you wrote this code this way, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pre-render the component. And when I pre-render it, the Razor code is going to say, well, meetings is null, so I'm going to show this part of it. And then after you finish on initialize sync, I will render the component again. And this time you have meetings. We're not in Blazor web app. We're not in, I don't even know what to call it anymore because it's not called Blazor United. We're not in that methodology where components have their own interactivity or could be statically rendered. We're in Blazor WebAssembly standalone. So the technique for that is going to be different. And we'll have to get that done in another show because we end in a few minutes here. So
nice.
That was a long-winded way to get to displaying meeting components, but we basically have now we're at the point where we have a Blazor WebAssembly standalone app that could be hosted on a static provider. That could be Azure Static Web Apps. It could also be GitHub Pages. We've done that. Where we've just committed it up to GitHub and the page rendered, which was really cool. I actually feel like we could probably figure out how to enable that so that every time we commit, it's just boom, it works in GitHub Pages. And then, of course, the production version would be, because with static web apps, we get other features that, you know, which will be nice for production. But so this is Blazor WebAssembly standalone talking to a web API that's technically a different project, which talks to a CosmosDB, NoSQL, and all managed somewhat by .NET Aspire, partially managed.
So bearing the lead a little bit, all of this, the content of the components, we created it near the end of the last show by just having a chat conversation with GitHub Copilot. And it's got the formatting can use a little bit of work, but look at the little pop-up feature as you kind of mouse over top of each one of them, right?
They put a shadow in on hover. So we basically asked it, can you create a component that renders these meetings? And the only thing it had to go on was the meeting class. That's all it had to go on. And it looked at it and said, well, you've got a date. So what if I use a calendar icon? And you've got a time. So what if I use... What was interesting is I thought it was going to render... We'd have to go look at the component. I thought it was going to render the length of the meeting.
Well, it did.
And I'm not... Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. It's just too small for me. I have to zoom in a little bit. Because I'm in StreamYard, and so I'm not... Now that I've zoomed in. Okay, yeah. So it shows the meeting. So, but what's really neat about this, that's a starting point. It's a starting point. And like you said, I did see the hover in the CSS. I saw the hover in there, and it's just adding a drop shadow, which is really cool. So from here, we can get going.
We got a good start.
Yeah, we got to start. So, all right. Well, first of all, we definitely had some people watching today. We definitely appreciate that. Don't forget that the archives for the show, if you're watching, whether you're watching on Twitch or YouTube right now, is we are on YouTube, youtube.com/TheDevTalkShow. So if you want to watch this or previous episodes where we began building this app, that's the place to go. I want to thank our guests today who joined us. Mitch Denny and Crazy Tech joined us. And thanks. I mean, Mitch came in with the save that we would have struggled with for a while, because I don't think I would have ever said, he's right. Or Mitch is right. The docs say use routing, but what's the reason why my brain, it's never highlighted in green to add.
Right.
So my brain never would have said, oh, we have to add that. And I just think, I think we wouldn't have gotten it without the confidence there to say, here, you should add this from Mitch. So, all right, Rich.
That's a Friday one.
I think a little bit more of an adventure than we were hoping. Yeah, but
that's okay.
What's left is, we want to work on the data model. We want to work on
full-on data entry.
Right, data entry for this. Authorization so that only folks like you and I can add meetings, and then other folks can sign up for them, but they can't tinker with them. So there's a lot to do, but we're trying to lay down. I think maybe soon we're going to get to authorization, because the longer we wait on that, the harder it will be to add later.
Yeah, and I'm up for saying, hey, we have a pipeline here, and if we want to say, hey, let's put authorization in now before we do all of the data entry and those kind of things, let's do it. So it's up to you.
Right.
Because I'm kind of leaning you on that one.
Yeah. I mean, we'll be able to do it. I think we're just going to do external accounts. We're not going to manage passwords and stuff ourselves, but we're still going to need a user store, so that way we recognize you. And if we wanted to be super fancy about it, we could even have our website allow us to add roles to users ourselves, where I actually kind of feel like the way we would start is we could get started as simply as just using the Entra ID to sort of help us out. But we'll probably want some real user management later. So, okay.
Definitely.
All right. So, hey, everybody who's watching, thank you for joining us. Have a great weekend. We really appreciate folks who comment in the chat. If you comment down below in the YouTube video, hit the like button, subscribe, and you can follow along. And if you have any ideas for the show, please let us know. Any comments on what we're doing, on what we shouldn't be doing, we'd love to hear them. Please let us know in the comments. But I think we got to get going. So, for Rich, I'm Chris, and we will see you all next time on the Dev Talk Show.